You're listening to Edge Radio TV. The views and opinions expressed in this program are that of the host or guests, and not the Edge Radio Network or its advertisers or affiliates.
Welcome, 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 my Edgy Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Edgy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Jen Colmenares, and I am so excited to bring y'all who I think is a dynamic duo and power couple. We have Sally and Nathan Redmond here, and they have just launched a podcast, The It Factor. They have an amazing journey. I consider them a dynamic duo because I've known Sally for years and I've kind of seen the journey in her mortgage business. Wasn't really familiar with Nathan, but it's been an interesting just getting to know them and to watch the process that they've gone through. So I'm excited to introduce them to you and hear a little bit about just what this journey looks like for you and really how did it start. You were telling me you were a coach. So this is kind of along the same lines, but not really.
A little bit. I like to think that everything that I've done in my career since the time, probably since I was about 22 years old, everything I've done has led me up and prepared me to do what I'm doing right now.
Right.
And it's really, really borderline like spooky to look at how it all kind of comes together.
You go back and connect those dots.
You connect the dots and it's like, God, there was purpose in that?
Yeah.
I didn't even enjoy doing that at all, but there was
Oh.
purpose in so much of the
So
process of getting to where we are now. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey.
Well, I thought that it interesting too when we were talking before the show. You're like, yeah, I was a teacher, I was a coach, I played this, I did this. Like you were jack of all trades, but it didn't feel like you were talking about it was your passion. And then you said coaching and this falling in your lap and your whole demeanor just changed.
Yeah.
Like your face lit up, like everything just changed. So obviously, this was meant to be. Kind of what did that look like when you say that it fell in your lap?
All right, so I just have to I guess I have to share my story just a little bit because there's definitely about probably a 20-year
health
back
coaching.
history.
Let's health coaching, from basketball coaching to health coaching, and this was a personal journey.
Right. So what I do now for a living is I'm a personal health coach, and the way that came about was in August of 2018. I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I just had some really weird symptoms of things that were going on in my body that just started to kind of give me some concerns. And so I went to the doctor and got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And if there's anybody listening that has type 2, you'll know what this means. But I had an A1C of 12.1. So anything above like 5.9 is considered type 2 diabetic, and I was double
Right.
I had double the amount of glucose in my blood as what would be healthy.
Wow.
So I was extremely high level type 2 diabetic. And it was just brought about through lifestyle. It was just a years and years and years of really poor choices, and not, taking care of my body. So I'm 5'9". I was 245 pounds and type 2 diabetic. And the diabetes actually caused me to lose about 20 pounds, which is one of the reasons I went to the doctor in the first place, because my mom pointed out, Nathan, looks like you're losing weight. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, Mom, trust me.
I'm still eating the same.
I'm not changing. I haven't worked out in years. I eat pizza twice a week. I was the model of unhealthiness.
Unhealthy.
Right? And then I noticed a week or two after she said that clothes were getting a little bit baggy, and I hadn't gotten on the scale in years. I didn't want to know what it said.
Right? You're like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that guys think that too, because we're like, ooh, that magic number. I don't want to do that. So it's nice to know that
I
guys
didn't get on the
too.
scale for a long time. I didn't really want to know what I weighed, and so then one day I decided to go into the doctor because of the weight loss and a couple of the little weird symptoms. Lo and behold, I had dropped down to 220 pounds. I had lost 25 pounds because of the diabetes, because my body was working overtime just nonstop to get the sugar out of my blood.
Now, how are you feeling at this time? I mean, it was probably just normal.
That's one of the weird things about type 2 diabetes is that there's no feeling. When your blood sugar is high, unless it's like dangerously go to the emergency room high, you just don't know.
Okay.
So you don't ever feel tired. You don't ever feel weak. There's no grogginess. There's no, none of that. No lethargy or anything. It's
not
just you
normal.
feel no, right. So I would take a nap after eating half of a pizza because that's what you do after you. It's just part of the way you feel after you eat a really heavy carb, high fat kind of a meal.
Right.
But yeah, they diagnosed me with type 2, and that was in August of 2018. And they put me on medication, and for probably about 6 months I was on medication, and I went back to the doctor, and my A1C had only dropped from 12.1 to like 9.9, which it's not good enough.
So at that point it was just medication.
It was just medication and some minor efforts at changing some things that I ate.
Have that soda.
Yeah, I tried to cut back on my sugars.
Sally's like, yeah, I'm watching it. I'm behind the scenes. Let's see it all.
So after going to the doctor and things not really improving, I still was kind of hard-headed about it.
Right.
And so there was an incident, and this is an interesting story that you don't know about. Nobody knows about. She knows about it. It's on one of our podcasts that'll be coming out. So there was an incident one night at home that kind of triggered me to do something. And it stemmed from a comment that I made to her, a friend of somebody on Facebook, and it went back and forth a little bit. and then this magical comment came from her on Facebook for the whole world to see. And the comment was, says the guy that hasn't exercised in how long? And she said that literally on Facebook.
Yeah. But nobody knows that it's banter, or was it? It was banter. It was directed at you.
It was directed at me for sure. Yeah, it was because I had made a comment about her sleeping in that day, and it was raining. So
she's like, pot.
Yeah,
kettle.
Yeah. So after we've talked about this, and she was frustrated with me not doing something about my health.
Right.
And so when that opportunity came up to just basically put her finger in my face, she said, I took it. I looked at this as my chance of really trying to get your attention.
Right.
And she knows me well enough to know that if you challenge me on something, then just expect that it's on.
Right.
It's game on now.
Right.
So she challenged me.
Yeah.
And
in a big way.
In a big sort of.
Now, did you know this, or was it kind of a dig and you're like, you know what, I'm going to prod him and like, wake up, dude, I love you, but you gotta.
When you have someone in your life that you see has an issue, whatever it might be, and you want to carefully tiptoe around it and maybe hint or say something, but you don't want to offend them, you don't want to hurt their feelings, you don't do all that. So you do it subtly, and then there comes a point in time, like he said, there's an opportunity, but all of that has just been built up.
Right.
You know what? I've been wanting to say something, and I'm just gonna, it's time. Like you challenged me in that, I've been running every morning at 5:30, half marathons, whatever and then all of a sudden you're coming at me. So it was time. And it was more of I wouldn't say it was calculated or, I was thinking about it, whatever. It was just one of those, this is my opportunity.
Boom.
I haven't been in your face about it. I haven't been the naggy wife, eat your vegetables kind of person.
Right.
So I'm taking it.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's more to the story that we can get into, but I believe wholeheartedly that comment was supposed to happen at that time, and it was supposed to be, it was really, really used as like the turning point. So I never really looked at that as in a negative way.
Right.
I always looked at this needed to happen.
Nice.
And so I just took the ball and ran with it, and that was the night that I decided to change. Yeah.
That is. We will continue with that when we come back from this commercial break, because I want to hear. I'm like, how do you take that, especially from a spouse, that you've nurtured in, like you said, you haven't been naggy, it's been nurturing. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see kind of how that helped you in your journey and your pivot.
Yeah.
So we will be right back. You're watching the Edgy Entrepreneur on Edge Radio TV Network. Stay tuned. We'll see you on the flip side.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
Welcome, my Edgy Entrepreneurs. You're watching the Edgy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Jen Coleman-Ayers. You are watching on Edge Radio TV with my guests today are Sally and Nathan Redmond, and they have an incredible journey. And we left on before the commercial talking about kind of the banter in the household, and that she kind of threw you under the bus publicly on Facebook.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. In a good way.
So game on. Yeah. You're like, okay, challenge accepted.
Yeah, it was game on for sure.
Yeah. What was that like? You'd been dealing with diabetes,
high blood pressure, sleep apnea, just a host of things that were correctable,
Right.
diet related, lifestyle related stuff
Yes.
that I brought on myself. And so it was that night. It was actually almost 2 years ago to the day. I mean, on April the 15th is when I started
How cool.
Yeah, so we're like almost on the 2-year anniversary of
Nice.
starting this whole process. So April 15th, I started a weight loss program with some friends of mine who were health coaches out in California, a husband and wife couple. And I had seen them do some pictures on Facebook, and one of the husband had lost 60 pounds, the wife had lost 50, and they just looked phenomenal. And so I immediately, 5 minutes after she made that comment, I was on the phone. I was like, all right, Brooke, Dave, talk to me. What's this thing you did? I need it. And that's what started the whole thing. And I started that program at 225 pounds. And within 90 days, I was 180 pounds.
Wow.
And that was July 15th of 2019 that I hit that goal. And then it just changed my life. It changed my lifestyle. It changed my exercise habits. I started running and playing sports again and doing active things that I used to do when I was younger.
Well, and so this is interesting to me. You were a coach.
Yeah,
You
I
were
know. That's one of the
currently a
sad parts
coach.
about it. I was a horrible example of fitness to the kids that I was coaching. And looking back on it, I just am like, man, why did you even remotely think that you could lead kids in the world of... I was a PE teacher, physical education, and coaching basketball, and I was 245 pounds, type 2 diabetic, because I didn't take care of myself.
Right.
You know?
Well, because you weren't happy. Like, you weren't necessarily living in your purpose. You weren't eating right. I'm like, there's so much of it that goes into the happiness factor.
Yeah.
You know, and the it factor, if you will.
Factor, for sure. So yeah, so I dropped all that weight in a very short amount of time, and then my health coach, one day I was sitting in my office and I had trophies and all kinds of stuff in there that was from basketball coaching, and she says, "Where are you right now?" I said, "I'm in my office," and we were on FaceTime. She and her husband and myself, and she goes, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm a basketball coach." She says, "You're a basketball coach?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been doing this for like almost 20 years."
Right.
She said, "You would be a really good health coach." I said, "Well, what does that mean?" She goes, "Well, you know how I helped you learn how to do the weight loss program, and I helped kind of guide you through the process?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "That's what health coaching is. Do you think you could do that?" I was like, "I'm a basketball coach for crying out loud. I can do that." And that's where the business of health coaching started. And that is where our lives took a radical change of direction, just from a business and finances and standpoint for the future.
Right. I know. I love what you said on Facebook. You're like, it was predictable. Like 2 years ago, your life was predictable.
It was.
Like, it was the Groundhog Day. You're going to get up and go to work and do this and do that, and eat the same crap and do the same thing and watch the same shows and live the same lifestyle, perpetuating more of the same.
Yeah. That's what teaching, I mean, teachers, I love teachers. I'm not disparaging that at all, but it does get into a routine of where it's just the same thing every day.
Yes.
And I wasn't unhappy with that necessarily, but I really had just come to kind of quote unquote come to grips with the fact that this is what the rest of my life is going to look like. I'm going to get up every day.
Miserable.
I'm going to show up to work.
I mean,
and I got paid to play with kids, so there was that. It was not like it was a stressful job, but at the same time, it was the same thing every single day.
Yes.
And now it's never the same thing 2 days in a row, because my whole world is about just randomly the phone ringing. Hey, Nate, I've been watching you on Facebook for a year, 2 years. I've been seeing you on this journey. I've been waiting way too long. It's time to do something. Tell me about this health program you've got. And that happens all the time. I was telling one of the coaches that I'm teaching how to do the coaching business yesterday. I said she had gotten a phone call from a friend unexpectedly. I said, "Welcome to health coaching.
Yep.
Your whole world is about surprises now. When people reach out that you never in a million years would have thought they'd reach out to you,
right?
They're going to, and then you get to change their life."
Yeah, I'm like, I have goosebumps. I love goosebumps moments. But it's so true. It is. And people need to be, it's almost like we need to be inspired by somebody that we know that is going on this journey or that has done this journey. Otherwise, we're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
We're kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Especially with weight loss, because everybody's seen all the fads.
Yes.
They've tried all the gimmicky things. They bought the products and they drank the drinks and they did the wraps and they froze the fat and they did all these things. And then 6 months later, like, well, that didn't really
Right.
work like it was supposed
Right.
to. And so they're kind of hesitant. And then they see somebody like me, and this is a perfect example. I got a phone call 2 weeks ago from a friend of mine that I've known since high school. And he's been watching me this whole process, and he's a fireman. And he called me, and I said, "What took you so long? How long have we known each other?"
Apparently you need more banter on Facebook.
Right.
Well, he answered that question. He goes, "You know what? You finally have credibility with me because you've been doing it for so long and you've stuck with it. I know it's real."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that said a lot to me, knowing that there are people that are just waiting for something that's real, that actually works, and that it's not just going to be some fly-by-night thing that
Right.
somebody disappears. I mean, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life is health,
Right.
is health coaching. And so, and he saw it after, it took him 2 years, but you know, now potentially my mind is thinking, okay, if I can get this fireman healthy, he's got a whole crew of people that work with him at the fire station. Maybe we can help trickle this in and get the whole fire station healthy.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. You got a captive audience there because they
Yeah.
all live there, talk there.
A month
eat
from now, they're
there.
going to be like, dude, what are you doing? You've lost
Exactly.
like 20
That
pounds
is
in a
exactly.
month. What are you
Yes.
doing? Well, call my
Yes.
boy Nate. You know, he'll
Exactly.
help you out. So yeah, that's what
How
my days are like.
beautiful. So what would you say is the most gratifying part in your personal journey from making the decision to the coaching business falling in your lap?
The most gratifying part for me would probably just be, I said this the other day on a Clubhouse show. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh
Clubhouse.
no, we're going to have that conversation later because I
Okay.
do not know how to use it.
Oh,
I've gone
geez.
on just enough to get my username.
It's the next thing. So I was on a Clubhouse show the other day, and this word just popped in my head. It was mojo.
Okay.
And I said on the show, I said, I got my mojo back.
Yes.
So the most gratifying part of the whole process is just me getting that spark of life back in me.
Mm-hmm.
I love exercising now. I met an Ironman about a year ago that suggested I do a sprint triathlon. And I said, what is that? And he explained, well, dude, you could totally do it. You swim 500 meters, you're going to bike 13 miles, and you're going to run a 5K. And I said, I could totally do that. And so I started training for triathlon, and now I just run constantly. My goal this year is to run 1,000 miles in 2021, which means I got to run 20 miles a week. And so,
well, you have a great partner. So
well,
I'm like,
she's the one that got the whole running thing started.
I know. I'm always
You know?
watching. I'm like a bookworm, and you're just amazing behind the scenes here as well. Like you've switched careers. You're in the mortgage business, so you've switched careers. So that's been a huge adjustment during this as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot to deal with at home, in a marriage, a lifestyle. So kind of what does that look like?
Well, it's been interesting because I think all the change really happened, what seems like all at once.
Mm-hmm.
But I know everything that's been going on and happening was leading up to that moment. But it just so happens that we were ready for that
Right.
change in the areas that happened. I was with a company for 8.5 years that I absolutely love and adore. The leadership, the company's an amazing company. But I got to a point where it was, you kind of get to a place where you know change needs to happen.
Right.
And sometimes we just stay with something because it's familiar, because it's comfortable. And, oh, I can put up with this, or I can handle that. It'll be fine. And just, you kind of adjust. And it got to a point where it kind of bubbled up, and I was like, you know what, it's time to make that transition and change. And I changed companies,
Mm-hmm.
though I've been in the business for 16 years. It was a major decision for me personally because of how much I had invested in that company.
Definitely,
And
yes.
I have a lot of friends still there and love everybody there.
It's
so
like
it was a very
another
hard,
family.
It was
Yeah,
absolutely
it's your daytime family.
I even mentioned that to him. I said, you know, it hurt because it felt like I was leaving family.
Yes.
And so it wasn't a decision that I took lightly, but it had to happen. Another
Yeah.
thing we did was we made a decision to homeschool our daughter,
Mm-hmm.
which is huge.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a big thing. And then he left his teaching career of 17 years
Yeah.
behind,
Right.
all at almost the same time. And so major change and transition happened. But you know what? I think we were so comfortable in the life that we were
Yes.
living, but yet uncomfortable enough to where it got to a place where it just kind of, things just started to get so uncomfortable that we had to make a change,
Right.
or it wasn't gonna be great for any of us.
Right.
And so what it did is it basically propelled us into what's happening now and what the changes. I mean, for me, behind the scenes with him, living with him in the home with his mindset the way that it was before wasn't fun.
And so we're going to talk more on that when we come back from this commercial break, for sure, because I do want to hear what it is, behind the doors, because everyone sees Facebook.
Oh, of course.
So, yes, we'll be right back to continue that conversation after this commercial break.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters. The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information. And my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay?
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Welcome back, my Edgy Entrepreneurs. You are watching the Edgy Entrepreneur Show with my special guests today. I have Sally and Nate Redmond, and we are talking about this dynamic power couple and really the struggle within the house. What does that look like to be married and going through so much transition?
Well, it's not fun.
We were kind of talking about just the pressure. You know, you're in a pressure cooker and you don't even really know that you're in a pressure cooker.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the biggest thing is just you are so used to it being a certain way, and you finally get to a point where it's like enough is enough. Where I think there's a quote that says, when the pain of change overshadows the pain of staying the same, is when actually change happens. So realizing that he wasn't fun to be around,
Because you were miserable.
He was miserable.
I didn't know I was
feel
miserable,
good.
but that's what's crazy about it. Now I look back and realize, man, I was really an unhappy person. I just didn't know it. It was just normal.
You just kind of layered on. Like those layers just build up year after year, day after day. You take it on, you take it in. And then like you were saying with your mortgage business, you're taking it in. You don't want to be a quitter. You can put up with so much. You're resilient.
Yeah, I can change. I can make things happen. I can adjust here and do that and just kind of compensate for what's not happening here and there. And, you do that for so long. But again, there comes a point in time where everybody, has a breaking point where it's just like, okay, enough is enough. And either you say something, you try to be a part of the change, and then when it doesn't allow you to change, then you have to do something different. And that's kind of what we did in all 3 areas, which was homeschooling, my
in about a 2-month period of time.
We did.
It was like change. Like
hey,
so
I've been
fast.
waiting. Come on, y'all are finally ready. Let's do this.
What's interesting is that, and I tell people this a lot, and I believe it. Whenever you're presented with a situation that's a little bit scary, that you're afraid to take that step, that's usually a sign that whatever's on the other side of that is where you need to go.
Yep. And it's going to be absolutely magical.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I tell people all the time, hey, lean into fear.
Yes.
If it's scary, go into it.
I'm like goosebumps again. Yes.
Yeah. And so for me, so she decides to leave a career with a company, a job with a company, not a career, but leave a job with a company that she loves so much. She was just really hesitant to make the wrong decision, but she knew deep down, I need to do this. And she had to lean into that fear and say, okay, I'm done, I'm going. Yeah. And then when she got on the other side of it, she looked back and she was like, oh my God, that was the right move. I should have done that a long time ago. With me, it was, I went to college to be a teacher. I've been doing it for 17 years. I have security here. I can work here for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I had been feeling for
those
months.
Days over
yeah.
and over.
I kept for months. I kept feeling like it's time to go. It's time to go. But I was afraid. I was afraid to leave what was like this guaranteed secure thing. Right. And it just came. There was some point one day at work where something took place that just slapped me upside the head and said, Nathan, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And then that's when I said, almost with as much of a instantaneous moment as when I decided to change health-wise. It was the same situation where in a moment I said, I'm done. And it was a little bit scary.
It was a lot scary.
But it was hands down the best thing.
What's funny about that is that it wasn't scary for me. And just like with him, knowing that I needed to make the change, because when I finally came to him.
So you're seeing it from the outside. Yeah. I mean, your partner's watching you, knowing.
Yeah. And when I finally came to him and said, I think it's time to go, he said, it's about time.
Aww.
So it's those, those moments of you want to say something, but you don't know if the timing is right. And you do have to be super cautious and careful of that, because words matter, right?
Right,
and
definitely.
I'm super cautious about what I say when I say it, but I think he knows by now that when I say it, it's like, hold your beer.
Yeah, hold your beer. Hold your beer. We're fixing to go.
Yeah, I've thought about it long enough, and it's finally time to actually say something. That he received it. And so for me, I was like, wait a minute, you knew all this time and you didn't say anything? And he basically said, I wanted you to be the one to make the decision. And so for me with his job, I behind the scenes was encouraging him. So I'm not afraid. I wasn't afraid because one, I know what he has in him, and I've always known what he has in him, and the ability to not fail in what he sets his mind to do. And so for me, I had told him, do it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Go for it.
And I don't know if that in the back of his mind might have been also just, it allowed him to instantaneously make that decision.
Right.
Where he knew, I mean, he's, the head of our home. So the breadwinner, the one that that should,
well,
that
you need
feels
your
that
support.
weight.
Yours his support system. Y'all are the foundation. Like he wants to do it with y'all and for you. Mm-hmm. So for sure, that's got to be a big decision factor and weigh into why you stayed where you did for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the security, not for me, but for her. Mm-hmm. I can't speak like I really know how women think, but one thing
we don't either. That's, we don't.
Yeah,
either.
we don't.
One thing
it changes every
one thing
5
I've heard a rumor that
There have been
women
books written
that one
right?
of the big needs of a woman is security. I've read that. I've heard that. And so as
Things evolve.
having a career that was like solid, you know, I always felt like this is going to make her feel better knowing that I got that solid paycheck coming in.
As head of the household, we've definitely been raised, you know, in this society that, that's how it's supposed to be. This is your job. If you're not doing your job, then how does that affect your manhood even?
Yeah.
You know, not just the marriage, not just that, but I mean, livelihood and manhood and how you view yourself ultimately.
I think it took her saying one day, babe, do it. That finally I was like, okay, if she's okay with it, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened.
And you know, it's interesting when you say, you know, it is kind of the way that we were raised, the security of that piece. And I mean, as a woman, we do need that. Personally, I did. But I don't think that if it had not been for the security that he provided as my husband financially, there's no way in the world that I could have taken the leap that I took to even get into the career that I'm in, to be successful in the way that I am, by not having that security of knowing that, you know what, if I for some reason don't make it, we're still good.
Yeah.
And so for me it was a security, and had it not been for that security, we wouldn't have what we have, and I wouldn't have been able to succeed the way that I have succeeded without that security. So I definitely needed it for my personal confidence, just because I do, you know, I have the doubt. Everybody, when you want to do something where it's either straight commission or it is entrepreneurship, and there's no guarantee of anything.
It's fun.
Yeah. So even though I did dive into that, it was still with a little bit of a security net back here, knowing that we'd still be okay.
And not even financially. I'm like, emotionally. I'm like, to have that support, you know, of somebody saying, yes, you've got this, do this, go for it. You know, I'm here for you. Let's do it together. So, and I think that's a beautiful part in what you had posted on Facebook, is like, you know, let's do this. Like, let's do it together. And what I've seen from you is, well, I've always thought you were a crazy runner. So I'm not a runner unless I'm being chased, or I'm raising money for charity. But yes, I mean, you've always been like this bookworm and athletic. So to go from that, and I did not know you, so I didn't know, you know, that was a disconnect, maybe in the house too. You know, when you love something that much and you're passionate about it. So kind of what did that leap look like when he started getting healthy? You were kind of like, yes.
Absolutely. It was break the pom-poms out, start doing the cheer, because, you know, I have friends that run and people that I've brought on, but it's so different to know that I have someone at home, my best friend, that I can actually have a conversation with now about books, about running and losing toenails, because that's what happens when you run a lot.
Ooh, those reasons I don't run. No.
Those types of things, you know, they were part of conversations that I would have with friends. But it was a piece that was missing at home, because we could not relate in that area. There were other areas where we could relate, but in I loved, I tried.
30 some odd pounds probably.
He did swear not to ever run again.
I said I'd never do this again. I did it one time. I didn't even train.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show, where I bring the talk
and I bring the unity,
and together we talk about unity. Unity is what matters. And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that. And that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio, because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge, and we bring the unity. So we're just glad. Edge Radio Network, every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk About Unity, because here at Edge Radio Network, truth still matters.
When people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio. Because
power couple. I mean, I really did. And you've made it like you're going at this second half together. And I really think that that is the beautiful part and why I consider
the program that decided to coach,
Right.
changing their lives.
What do you think? You were talking earlier about the firefighter and that it took you and your commitment over time, this 2 years, for somebody to reach out. What do you find is one of the biggest factors that people are
All what the high risk of things that were causing the worst problems in COVID, those people were coming to us in droves saying, help me, help me, help me. And then,
interesting.
yeah, so we had a big
So that they weren't on the
high risk, right?
Ah.
And so that was our first
Good for
wave.
them.
And then our second wave was the COVID-20, COVID-15.
Right.
Really fall, say, okay, I've gained 15, 20 pounds during COVID, help me out. And then we had a whole nother wave come New Year because New Year's settled down and people were really starting to wrap their heads around, okay, we're just going to get back to life.
Right, this is just
I'm not
how it
stuck in the
is.
house anymore now that
Right.
things are going back to normal, and I'm not stuck at home, and I'm not going to gain weight. A lot of people didn't want to start the program while they were still stuck at home because they saw that being kind of counterproductive. They might not be able to be successful. And so when the new year hit and people started getting back to normal,
Then they can
that's
get
when we
out,
had a whole
things are
nother wave
opening.
of people come in and say, okay, life's back to of people during COVID, and those are the three waves: the high risk, the quarantine 15, and then the people that said, okay, let's get going, life back to normal.
Take control of their health. What has been the biggest change in that group that you've kind of noticed? Are they still
I'll give you a
sticking
great
with
example.
it? So we're
I'll give
here.
you a great example. I got a phone call that if you're lucky, you'll live to see 40 years old. He's 33.
Don't you love doctors?
So if you're lucky, you'll
Sometimes
make it
they
to
have
40.
to be that person.
Well,
though.
yeah, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
like, you're right. Maybe that is.
So he was
kind of
high
part of
risk
it.
for sure. And he called me in April and he said, all right, man, it's time. It's time.
Yeah.
Well, here we are, March, April now, but he lost 125 pounds by Christmas.
That's
125 by Christmas, and now he's on a maintenance and he's just maintaining his low weight. So 80 days of COVID that came on and said, hey man, I need to lose a lot of weight. Help me
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So it's super
So is there
fulfilling to
anything-
be able to do that. Really, really easy. Whereas you
Yes.
go to a place where they just pump you with supplements and do all kinds of tricks to make you lose weight, but your habits don't change.
Right.
You're going nowhere.
Right.
You know, so that's the most important part of our program is it's a habit forming program that
It's
changes
a
how you think.
lifestyle.
Absolutely.
It's
I
a
tell that's the first thing I
lifestyle.
tell people when they call me. Like, first of all, dude, I told my firefighter buddy, this is
Yeah.
not a diet. This is
Right.
a lifestyle change. If you're
Right.
looking for a diet, I can't help you. If you're looking to change and you want this to be permanent, then we can talk.
So do you start like morning routines, like that basic?
At the same time.
I mean, I mean, one of the things we say, or Nathan says, is you can't outrun your fork.
Yeah,
No, you
outrun
can't. I
your
love
fork.
that.
I
You
was,
can't.
yeah, I mean, on the program, I lost over 20 pounds,
Yep.
and it was in a 3-month period too. But all of that running that I was doing wasn't. I was still eating.
Yeah,
all
you're
of
so
the
when you're
stuff.
eating bad, yeah, it's
Yeah.
what's going in is it's
80% of your
product
weight
what
loss is
you're
always going to be nutrition related. You can work
Yes.
your tail off. You can keep.
preparing, and it's the whole process.
Yeah.
For sure. So where can people find y'all? Yes. So coaching, how do they find you when they're ready for this journey?
So the health coaching thing is beautiful because even though I started it, she came on board as a client and
Which
was
is
real
funny,
successful.
I'll
So
say
we are able to
this.
coach together now.
That I didn't even know that, like, I really just saw Sally's journey on Facebook and thing.
So we, we're obviously on Facebook. You know, we're both on Instagram. I think you're just
What's
Sally
your
Redmond.
business name, Nate? Your business name?
Our business is just Redmond Health Coaching.
Redmond Health Coaching.
Redmond Health Coaching.
Okay.
My Facebook is my name, Nathan Redmond. Or I'm sorry, take that back. My Instagram is Nathan Redmond Health Coach, and then my Facebook is Health Coach Redmond. So
Okay.
that's where they can find me, and then your Instagram and your Facebook
Are both Sally Redmond.
Yes.
Yeah.
All out there.
So-
And you did. Like, you just kind of ripped the Band-Aid off.
Mhm.
And I think it's beautiful that you were able to do that together and as a family on this journey. Kind of, what does your daughter think in all of this? We haven't even really ventured there.
She's 12, so she's
12.
We're getting her there.
She's healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
She
trying.
is right now.
Yeah, yeah. But I will say that
what is the biggest struggle with a 12-year-old? Like eating wise and in a healthy.
The same problem that is with
With adults?
most adults, convenience.